the Shifting Religious Concepts. We are SRC, and we're so pleased to be here with you today for a novel look at the Bible and what it means for all of us. My name is Mark Thomas. I'll be moderating today's show. Today, along with our SRC panel, we're going to continue with our series titled Revelation Revealed. Just a few things for the audience before I introduce our panel. As always, please keep your microphones on mute during the program. This is necessary just to keep down on the background noise. We do, however, want your participation. So if you want to make a comment or ask a question, just use the Zoom, raise your hand in the Zoom feature, and then you can we'll call on you and you can unmute your mic at that time. Also, there's a chat feature. If you'd rather use that, you can just text in questions or comments as well. And we'll do our best to answer those questions as we go. Today, our panel is Anala D., Archie Sanders, Dr. K.R. Griffo. Anala and Archie are both ordained ministers. Anala has written 2 books and is working on her 3rd, and is also a noted inspirational speaker. Archie has pastored for over 20 years in Virginia and is an authority on the Bible and how it came to its present form. And Dr. Griffo has a very extensive resume. He's written numerous books and is known for his expertise on the Bible and how it relates to our bodies and the cosmos. They have all spent many years looking for the true meaning of the Bible and many other spiritual and esoteric writings. It is human nature to want to know who we are and where we came from. SRC knows that there is ancient wisdom in the Bible and other places that is concealed or manipulated in traditional religions such as Christianity. This knowledge used to be for the select few. SRC wants to change that and to illuminate this knowledge and so discover the gods that we are. So let's just start today with our takeaways, Anala. If you would please present those.
Absolutely. First, let me just say good morning to our panel and also to our guests that are here today. Last week, we went through, a couple shows. We've gone through chapter 1 and we're still in chapter 2. And the takeaways for Revelation is where and how Revelation came about. And we've talked about that. We talked about the role of Paul, the real purpose of the book called Revelation. I believe we have also covered that, but we're going to continue to cover that information as we go on through the book of Revelation. Your body and the book of Revelation. We are still breaking that down because there's so much information in there. What and who is the light of the world? You will get that as we move through the book of Revelation. And then, of course, what is the significance of Revelation in your everyday life? Those are the takeaways.
All right, thank you for that. So just as a brief summary before we get right into the panel's presentation, as a brief summary of last week, we opened up the Bible again in chapter 2 of Revelation. During the presentation, the panel explained how the 7 churches in chapters 2 and 3 are really a representation of how the sun and the 7 planets which rule the zodiac relate to the 7 chakra, and so the 7 senses that are in each of us. It was revealed how the ancient storytellers utilized symbolism and allegory to communicate between the chosen few. We must remember that life in ancient times was much different than today. Pestilence, disease, and violent acts of nature were attributed to supernatural beings. The masses were told that they must placate these beings or face the consequences. In many ways, we're being told this is the same thing that's happening today. Life, death, and quality of life is presented as something dependent on faith in an external God. SRC wants to bring this fiction into the light. We know that the cosmos, our bodies, and our senses, our consciousness are all linked. This is really in-depth knowledge that SRC is presenting, and I personally strongly suggest you go back and watch the videos of each show just to get everything that's presented, because I myself, I edit the show, and believe me, I get a lot more information when I go back over it. So I would strongly suggest that. So we're going to mix it up a little bit today. We're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to start with Dr. Griffo, and he's going to pick up on chapter 2, the very last church of chapter 2, where the speaker is addressing the angel of the church of Thyatira. The speaker introduces himself as having eyes of flame and feet like brass. The church is first praised, but then is lectured on Jezebel, who is apparently tolerated despite all her transgressions. The verbiage used in these verses about Jezebel is quite graphic. Dr. Griffo, is there a significance to the city of Thyatira? And what about the eyes of fire and all the other symbolism in this? And why such vengeful language, if you comment on that?
Sure, absolutely. Good morning, everyone. This is it's gonna be kind of deep. I'm gonna be giving a lot of definitions and cross-reference material, but as Brother Mark stated, please go back and study these videos, and you'll be able to capture a lot more information as opposed to just watching it live. So I'm going to be kind of looking to my right because I got the scripture up on my right here. So every now and then I'm going to glance. So it starts out in 18, and to the church in Thyatira, which is a Greek name for the deity that we've heard of called Semiramis, who was the wife of Nimrod. Nimrod was the grandson of Noah, according to the Bible. So this church, of course, first as you stated in the monologue, church and these 7 churches deal with the 7 planets, which deal with the 7 chakras. Even when you look at the word church, you come up with the word doma comes from domus, which is a house in Latin, or house of God, or church, which was spelled in ancient times Kirk, like Captain Kirk, which means circle. So when you're dealing with the church, you're dealing with the circle, and the chakras are 7 wheels, circular wheels that are inside of our body. So this is how you make the connection, knowing that all of the ancient churches had the dome. The dome means domus, which deals with the house of God, or the church, which is from the word Kirk, K-I-R-K, and it means circle. So it was a subtle reference to that when these 7 things coming up. So in Thyatira, which again was the Greek word related to the word Semiramis, Semiramis was as we said, the god associated with Tammuz, Nimrod. Her and Nimrod had a son named Tammuz. Tammuz was equated with Jesus in ancient Babylonian scriptures, but also the whole story of Nimrod dying and then being resurrected with the help of his wife, Semiramis. It all goes into this whole refrain that's been put all over the world, where these savior gods are assisted by these women and they give birth to the sons of God. So another name for Semiramis is the word Sibyl in Asia. And as we said in previous, and a couple of maybe the first one where we started talking about Revelations, this came from the Sibylline oracles. So there's a relationship between Semiramis, whose other name is Jezebel. Jezebel meaning married to Baal. And Baal, of course, was the god all of the ancient Jews were forbidden from. So the thing against Jezebel, it was because she represents the lower nature that seduces men to worship false idols. And of course, we know that Baal was a false idol. We know that Nimrod in the Babylonians was a false idol. So when you see, when they say that they're going to lay down with Jezebel, it's talking about worshiping of false idols, her being married to Baal. Now we can take this and make a loose connection with the biblical or the physiological structure here. For anyone who studied the human anatomy, you will know that the brain, the material that the brain is made out of is the same material that the intestines are made out of. And the intestines and the brain look like the same structure when you look at them. According to what we've been taught, Sarai and Abram were the left and right hemispheres of the brain, which was called the cerebrum. Sarai, Abram, cerebrum, the brain. When that same vein, you have the word Baal, which is the lower nature. You have other words, gut or gut, which comes from the German word, or God comes from the German word gut, gut, gut. You see the similarities. The word abdomen, D-O-M-E-N, is slow phonetically related to demon. So when you're looking at Baal and the lower nature, or this false god who is diametrically opposed to the Most High, then you kind of make the connection of why Semiramis, Jezebel saw this deity, and they seduced the people to commit fornication. And fornication was simply meant to worship false gods. And all of those individuals that I mentioned were false gods. So I just wanted to give that background as we continue to unroll the rest of chapter 2. So then it says, write these things, said the Son of God, who has eyes like fire, like fine brass. Now, again, in one of the older episodes that we did, we talked about this being that had a head of gold, chest of silver, then you had tin or bronze, or, you know what I'm saying, on down the body. So you can find this description in the book of Daniel, the 2nd chapter, the 32nd verse, where it says the image's head was a fine head. His head was of fine gold, his breast and arms of silver, his belly and thighs of brass, and his legs of iron, and his feet part of iron and part of clay. So this is where you're getting this description of this divine being who represents the four elements, mainly the four elements that are associated with the body, with gold being in the top, silver, you know what I mean, and on down as it lessens in importance and in value. In medical astrology, where they place a zodiac sign to correlate with your bodies. We've talked about this on other shows. Again, this is why it's important to go back and look at the other shows. But the top part of your head is ruled by Aries. Aries is ruled by Mars, who is the god of war, aka fire. Aries is always associated with fire. This is why when you go back and read the stories about Moses, who would represent the age of Aries, it was about fire. He had the burning bush. When they put the blood on the doorways to pass over the children of Israel, you know, everything was about fire, heat, anger. Moses killed someone, you know, out of anger. So this is when it says that this being had eyes of fire, is referencing the part of the body dealing with Jezebel, Baal, the lower nature. You're dealing with this overlay of the human body using astrological signs, using the gold, precious metals, etc. So this book has so many different layers to it, and you have to be able to decipher where you are based off of learning astrology, based off of learning the basics of this ancient science. And then this is how you'll be able to break this down. Go on to verse 19, and I know thy works, thy charity and thy service and thy faith and thy patience and thy works, and the last to be more than the first. Again, you're dealing with the lower nature and the higher nature. Now, let's rewind back. If you go back and look at, they are associated with the color purple. Jezebel was actually a tyrant, Tyran, who the first time I ever heard that word was when they was talking about Hiram of Tyre, who built Solomon's temple. Tyre means, and it also was associated with the Phoenicians, and it means purple, or people that use purple dye. Looking over those 7 churches, or those 7 circles, the top circle is purple. Then you have indigo, then you have blue, then you have green, then you have orange. No, you have yellow, orange, and then red. So those 7 chakras that go up and down your body, the top chakra is purple. This is all of the meditation, all of the things that make you reach that area where the purple is, that higher area of your brain. However, because you let Baal, or the lower nature, sometimes creeps up and gives you bad thoughts, where you start to again, worship these lower natures, worship these false gods, worshiping these false gods, then I have to say something against you. Even though you're doing the good works, even though you're meditating, even though you're trying to be a good person, every now and then we fall down and we let the lower nature rule over us. Or sometimes we let those thoughts that we call the lower nature rule over us. So that's what you're dealing with in verse 19. And again, in 20, what we're talking about, notwithstanding, I have a few things against thee because thou suffered the woman Jezebel. Jezebel, again, in Hebrew means Baal, exalt. Baal is husband to. In Greek, Baal is the Tyrian woman. And again, this talks about purple and the symbolism of a false teacher. So this is where we are. We're dealing with false teachers, the lower nature coming up and giving you these thoughts that make you think you're doing right when you're actually doing wrong. So shall we continue or shall I pull up for a minute?
Oh, anybody got questions to this point? Comments? I would just reiterate that the way they communicated during that day, and they talked that the select few, the intellects of the time, talked in this manner to each other.
Right, absolutely. There was no woman named Jezebel.
Right. So you had to have a knowledge of astrology and of the body, and in order to understand this.
You had to have a knowledge of all of those ancient sciences. I'm sure we've heard of the 7 liberal arts: rhetoric, grammar, mathematics, astronomy, geometry, those 7. If you had knowledge of those, you would understand this. You had what they call the trivium, which is the top 3, and then the quadrivium, which are the lower 3. Just like our bodies are overlaid with the 4 to get up to the heart, and then the top 3, which deal with the more spiritual, intellectual things. And that's the same way that the liberal arts are broken down as well. So yes, you have to have a knowledge of the liberal arts, which will teach you about the body, which will teach you about astrology, which will teach you about how these ancient sciences had a color-coded perspective. This is why the Bible talks about in Genesis about the bow that's in the sky that everybody has interpreted as a rainbow. And it gives you these different color schemes, like the woman from Tyre, which we know Tyre means purple. And it will give you all of these different colors as you start learning languages, the region, what those people were associated with. And so you have to have all of this knowledge.
Well, I'm just sitting here thinking that I have to keep in mind myself, as Anala mentioned last week, I think, about Revelation as being the initiation of our ownness. And I'm thinking, I see, being that I've been in church most of my married life, and I've been married 41 years. So I look at the church system, I look at the people, and we've always, as I even preach myself, I tell people that you got to be holy. You must be holy. But no one never explained to us what that holiness was really about. As we look at this book, it speaks of us, ourselves, our body, and how we have to get control of the lower nature, and it's preached in church. You got to be holy. You got to live right. But nobody really sit down and explain to you how your body is constructed and the things that cause you to be out of alignment. Nobody does that. So we have to keep in mind that this was an initiation. The initiate was desiring to perfect a higher learning and understanding of who and what we are, and how to control ourselves. How many people you done seen on the news that they say they were Christians and they done killed over 100 people, and you know what I'm saying? They never come to understand that God is in everybody. Well, however, we must be able to control ourselves. I have to think about myself when I first got in the Navy. and got out on my own, man, I just went slam wow. My animalistic ways just kicked in and I just couldn't control myself. So we got to understand that what we're telling all these things about our body, doctor, you said it. We have to study and become aware of who we are and know that it's not up to me as the preacher to keep you in line, but you need to learn how to, you need to be able to get the reins and hold them reins and come to understand that, wait a minute, you know, he called himself an apostle, he called himself a bishop or whatever. Okay, what is it that he's trying to get over to me, to get me to understand, to get in these positions to where I can control these desires and all this stuff that gets me out of line.
You're absolutely right, Archie. And I want to just go back to something that Dr. Griffo said too when he defined the word church. When you think about the word church, that, you know, when you go look it up in the dictionary, and I know the SRC always provide the definitions on a chart for you, but we're asking you guys, our audience, to start writing down these definitions and go look them up because we want you to see them for yourself. Church is a building. And you think about our bodies, the Bible even calls our body a temple, a building. And then when you think about what is a building, it's a place that has a roof. Do we not have a roof? Our head. It's a place that has windows. Our eyes have been called the windows of our soul. So that's what it's talking about. And it offers more than one level. And those are all the chakra levels that Dr. Griffo and Pastor Archie was talking about, used for living. Anything built or constructed, we were created, we were constructed. So we are that building or that church that the Bible is talking about. But we sometimes forget that. So I just wanted to bring that up. And then also just one other thing I wanted to bring out, the definition for angel. It says a spiritual being believed to act as an attendant, an agent or messenger of God, conveniently represented in human form with wings and a long robe. Well, that's the religious definition, but we know that we are God's within. God lives inside of us and we are represented. God in us is represented in a human form. So we are those angels as well, as Dr. Griffo was sharing with everybody. I just want to pass that on.
Okay, you want to continue on, Doctor?
Oh, sure. No, that was great. It was so much I wanted to say at that point, but I didn't want to interrupt you guys because I know y'all had very important points. So if they come back to me, I'll try to address them. But yes, the body, when you understand when it says that the kingdom of God, you know, is within you. So, you know, that's it. Once you meditate, then that's when, as we're going to get later on in the Revelations, where it speaks about that God, there will be this temple and God will come dwell with them in the temple. It's because when you have exercised all of your lower nature and you're dwelling in your higher nature, then that's when you will be able to commune with God, as Jacob did in the place called Peniel or Pineal. So, yes, absolutely. I love that what you guys have contributed to that particular part of it. So now we're gonna go. I think we're in 21 now, and I gave her space to repent of her fornication, and she repented not. Obviously, we just went over that. She's the lower nature. She's enticing the people to go and worship a false deity, aka to go and to go against God, or aka to sin. And we went over sin being a Akkadian deity, moon deity. The moon in astrology is associated with emotions. So when you are sinning, that means that you are very, very emotional, which goes into Pastor Archie's point. So this is when you go worshiping a false god, you are getting emotional because you're not supposed to be that emotional where you would go and kill millions and millions of people, but call yourself a Christian. So you are being a sinner at that point because you're giving in to your emotions, aka the moon, aka the moon god's sin. Okay, verse 22. Behold, I will cast her into a bed, and then them that commit adultery with her into great tribulation, except they repent of their deeds. Exactly. Until you start to accept your Lord nature and try to work on righteousness, that's simple enough. At least I think it is. And if you guys want to jump in, please stop me at any point and jump in. And I will kill her children with death, and all of the churches shall know that I am he which searches the reins and hearts, and I will give unto every one of you according to your works. Again, the great work is the daily sacrifice. The sacrifice is to take away a part of your day, go in the darkness into your secret corner, to your, and then meditate. That is your daily sacrifice. That is your daily work. This is the deeds. This is the great works, is to meditate, which will help you then be able to stay away from going a whoring and adultering, you know, based off of what we understand as having negative thoughts, lower vibrations, etc. So then you have to do those great works. And the great works.
I want to jump in. I want to jump in. I wanted to, because when you talk about the children, and I will kill her children with death. See, you know, when I was in church and thought that they were talking about the children, that terrified everyone. But it's not talking about children. A child is an ideal. It's a thought, an early thought. Yes. It might be something that you're thinking of doing. But what happens when you are operating from, like Dr. Griffo said, when you're operating from a lower nature, your ideals, all those things that you say, you know, I want to do this and I want to be this and I want to do that. You're not going to get there. You can't get there from that lower place. You have to operate from a higher place in order to get there. I just wanted to share that because it's not talking about actual children.
No, absolutely. You took it right out of my mouth, because that's exactly what I was going to say. You are absolutely right. Those are your thoughts. Your children are your thoughts, and either you can raise those children to go to the right, which is the good side, or go to the left, based off of where you are in your journey. So absolutely, I agree with that. Verse 24, but until you, I say, and until the rest in Thyatira, as many as have not this doctrine and which have not known the depths of Satan as they speak, I will put upon you none other burden. Meaning, again, if you follow the children that go to the right, then you won't have any burden. You won't have any trials. You won't have any, because you will know how to overcome those, because you stay in your righteous mind. You stay away from eating bad things. And when I say eating bad things, eating bad thoughts, being around people that have negative energy, not only just eating bad foods, but eating bad foods would include eating bad thoughts. So then once you stay away from those things, you know how to curb your appetite for those lower nature things, then you won't have any burdens. Or as we talked about in a previous class, desire is the leading to suffering, and the sufferings are the burdens. Verse 25, but that which ye have already hold fast till I come. Again, once you do that work, then that's when the Lord will come and dwell in your temple. Once you do the work. 26, and he that overcome and keepeth my works until the end, to him will I give power over the nations. There it is. You do the work, you win. But you have to go within. You have to cut off the negative energy. I'm not saying you're going to avoid the negativity your whole life. That's not possible. But once it comes to you, you know how to deal with it. When you feel your emotions getting ready to, I'm going to turn it over to you real quick. When you feel your emotions getting ready to get the best of you, you go back and you remember and you do those inner works, then you can stop yourself from sinning. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry, because you're doing, I love what you're saying. I just wanted to, because you said that once you do the good works, then the Lord will come and dwell in you. I was my understanding that God is always within us. Is always willing, always there, never leaving us. But the good works is something that we must decide to do. You always have a choice. We talked about that before. You have a choice, like you mentioned, Dr. Before, you can go to the left or you can go to the right. You can choose to focus on those things that you want, or you can choose to focus on those things that you don't want. And either way, you still are right, because the God that lives within us will give you whatever you want, whatever that focus is. So,
And free will.
it's not, yeah. So, we're not trying to tell you, if you do bad, God won't live in you, because that's what religion has taught us. But what we are saying, that God lives there, and you always have a choice on which direction you want to move in. That's
Yes.
I'm always sitting here thinking about messages I have preached and how this is affecting people. Those who are watching need to come to understand. We've said in the beginning, as we even began SRC, to understand that God is in you. God is in you. And what this initiation that is symbolized as revelation, as the apocalypse, is getting an initiative who is going to move to the higher thinking, to get to where they can think out of the Canarian, the head, where God is, where all the senses that you're trying to get to, because we only use 10% of our brain. So all that is going on with this initiation is getting that person to come to understand how to get above those lower ways of thinking and get up there where God is at, which when the Bible speaks of heaven is in you, up in your head, in your brain. We don't even use it. If we can control all this lower nature, now we can think right. I heard my sister now say that what she was trying to do as far as writing her books and getting a grip on what it is that she wanted to do was already in her. It was already in there, but she had to focus. And it's just like us in the church when we fast 3 days and 3 nights. I know some of you know what I'm talking about. I fasted 3 days and 3 nights. We thought that it was going to make us holy, and within a sense, what it was doing was making our body whole. If we fasted right, it would make our body whole. If any of you ever notice, as you fast for those 3 days and 3 nights, I'm talking about a complete fast with no water, no food, and you're fasting and you're focusing on the upper thinking. You gotta think higher, otherwise you'll never even make it through the first day. So you're trying to reach God, which is up in your head. It's your imagination, your strongest point of thinking up in the Canarian area. I guess that's what you call it up there. I'm a country boy, so I don't, get these words right sometimes. But I bet somebody understand what I'm talking about. See, it's the person we're trying to. God is in you. He never leaves you. And folks always give me, well, I'm a draw nigh to God. You can't draw nigh to God because he's already there. If he got to draw nigh to him, he ain't there. You got to try to get close to him. He's there, up in our upper thinking. This symbolism that Apollonius put together was for those initiatives who were putting themselves in a position to grow. Because see, a lot of them were called, but only a few were chosen, because they had to be lining up with what they're supposed to do. It's just like a sorority, y'all know. Most of us know sororities, and you got to do what they said to do. And this is sort of like getting your body in line so that you can reach the higher calling up there above in your brain, cause it to work, and you can see and you become intuitive. I don't want to get ahead, but that up in the head is some powerful stuff.
All right. Where were we, Griff?
We're getting low.
Go ahead, Griff.
Okay. So first off, I agree with you guys totally. All I could do was just nod. On 27, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, as the vessels of a potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I receive of my Father. Meaning, if you're in your righteousness, if you're practicing that daily work, that sacrifice, then you will negatively creeping up. You're going to be able to smack it and say, nope. Or as we say in the church, devil, get behind me. You'll be able to rule over it with an iron rod. That's all it is talking about, is being able to correct your thoughts. Verse 28, and I will give him the morning star. Now, this one right here, this particular verse right here. Now, we've heard that the devil being called the morning star or the evening star, and Jesus being called the morning star. All it is a reference to the planet Venus. Venus, to the ancients, was called the morning star and the evening star, or another word was phosphorus, which means light bearer. Actually, the word Lucifer means bearer of light. So Venus has, according to the ancients, it had two natures. In the springtime, the first star that you would see in the morning was Venus, aka the morning star. In the fall time or in the morning time, then that would bring light, joy, goodness, things that are associated with Jesus. In the evening time, it was the first star that you would see in the fall. It would be the first star you see in the fall in the fall time. So it became the evening star, and that was associated with the negativity, the darkness, the devil, Lucifer, etc. So this is why when you find in the Bible Jesus being called the morning star and Lucifer being called the evening star, is still both referencing to the planet Venus, which has a dual nature. That's all that was. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches. Of course, once you meditate, then that Spirit will go through those 7 chakras and, of course, enlighten your third eye area, and you will be able to hear the voice of God. As Pastor Archie, as well as Pastor Anila said, God is always in us. It's just that sometimes we have to open the door to determine whether or not we're going to let God come in or we're going to let the devil come in. So that those natures are always inside of us, dueling all of the time, depending on how we open up and allow that individual thought to come in, or what thought comes in will determine whether or not we're worshiping God or we're worshiping Lucifer or Satan or the devil. So I think that rounds out chapter 2, if I'm not correct.
Yeah.
I just wanted to comment too, when as I think about we say devil because we know that there's no real devil, but there are the vibrations, the energy of the, what you don't want, and then there's the energy of what you do want. And so what I've learned through my studies is that if you if you don't want this, then you're not focusing on it. And one person may consider that as evil or bad, but it may not be evil or bad to you. So in my understanding, there is no, what might be evil to one may not be evil to another, is what my point is. Because you need, as I think Pastor Archie said before there was light, there was darkness. So you still need both. You need the dark and you need the light, because you wouldn't even know what light is if you didn't have the dark. So we're not saying that there's anything wrong with the darkness or the light or the morning star, the evening star in this case, but we're just saying, know the difference, know what you want, and focus on that that you do want, and don't well, for me, I operate out of the darkness and I operate out of the light, because I realized I gotta have both.
So as you when you go back in, and you're right, when you go back and you look at the morning star, you start to study how Venus works, then you know that Venus goes into retrograde. Retrograde, for those that don't know, is when you're observing these planets from Earth, it appears like they stop moving and they start going backwards. That's not really the case, but from our vantage point, that's what it looks like. So when you're in retrograde, let's say like with Venus deals with love, relationships, and things like that. When Venus is going direct, everything is good. When Venus is in retrograde, then you will experience bad relationships, bad love things for those, get this, 40 days and 40 nights. So what happened? When you read in the Bible about the 40 days and the 40 nights, that's an ode to Venus being in retrograde. So please understand, again, that when we talked about having the knowledge of the 7 liberal arts, one being astrology, you will learn about retrogrades and how long retrogrades usually last. And then you will be able to see the subtle references to those things in the Bible when you read about the length of days for certain things. That's all. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Oh, that's good. Anybody else? Anala, were you going to say something?
No, I wanted what I wanted to do, because I know we talk a lot about Dr. Griffo and also Pastor Archie talk a lot about the different chakras and things like that. So what I want to do is I want to share a chart with our audience, because I believe that once you see that chart and understand where those chakras are located and what they mean, that will help you to meditate and focus on those areas. So if you don't mind, I'd like to share my screen for just a second and share this with you. So as we can see today, Dr. Griffo was talking a lot about the crown chakra here, and that's what we're talking about. And we also talked about, especially in the book of Revelation in chapter 2, we talked about the heart chakra, which is right here. That's the balance and the love and the connection and compassion and hope and forgiveness and all of that. And then you, of course, as we talk about the crown chakra here, not to realize all these things are within us. These are not things that you're going to look at a person and just see. Those things are within us. So that this is when you are focusing on love and you want to send love out to the universe and you want to send love to someone else, you're right here. You can focus in this area. This is the love and compassion and the peace, thoughtful harmony and focus is right here on the top of our heads. And as I mentioned today, we've been talking also a lot about the heart area, and this is where your lungs and all that stuff and the balance and love and connections and all that. So just remember, and as we talk about the different types of chakras, I want to bring this chart up as we move through Revelation so you can see. I know that Dr. Griffo has talked about the third eye. It's right here. That's intuition. That's service. That's your imagination. So when we talk about imagining something, this is where you should be focusing at when you want to imagine what your life is going to be like. Focus on the good and understanding. It's right here. So I wanted to share that with you guys, and we will share more of that as we move through the book of Revelation.
Good stuff. Also, I'm sorry, Mark, go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask for your comment. Go right ahead.
When you're looking at that chart, please understand that the ancients knew this science. That's how it ended up in the Bible. But what they understood also, this is how you know that there's divine intelligence out there. For each area where the color schemes are different, it rules, as we saw, a certain endocrine gland, the endocrine system, the pituitary gland, the thymus gland, the pancreas, the liver, those sexual organs, those are part of the endocrine system. But also, when you have issues in those areas of your body, you can go to nature, and nature will help you solve those issues. For example, again, I always like dealing with the crown area, which is purple, right? Which covers the eyes. Did you know, well, we've been taught that eating a carrot, is good for our eyes, right? But did you know that the original carrot was purple?
Oh,
as you go down here, for anyone that ever has a medical condition that's dealing with the heart, they will tell you to do what? Eat green, dark green leafy vegetables, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So then nature has provided a color-coded scheme to align with these chakras in our bodies that help keep them working optimally, or as the Bible says, I came to give you life and life more abundantly. You'll be able to then change your diet if need be to work on certain areas of your body. One last thing, I know we're running out of time, but another thing that the ancient Africans used to do is each 7 chakra has a vibration. So then it's related to the 7 noted scale, or the octave, which is 8, which is the repeat, but it's 7 layers there. So then if you had an issue, let's say with the throat area, then you would chant a certain vibration And that vibration would work on loosening that chakra, which would bring more positive energy to help heal that area. Another thing that they would do would they would lay you on a string of a 7-string instrument, and they would pluck one, and based off of where they plucked, it would work on that vibration would go and work with your body. Hence the reason why when you look at the Bible always talks about harps and lyres. Well, those things became, or just upright, when you lay them on the side, they become a piano. It's the same thing as a piano. And they use this to, the music would, as the Bible talks about, the music would have a healing effect because you understood that the vibrations would work on certain parts of your body. I just wanted to throw that out there. I know we'll come back to it later, but this is just something that we really need to be thinking about as we are looking at these chakras.
All right. Yeah, I love that. That really relates. You know what, Archie, we're running out of time. I think what we're going to do is wait till next week. No, this has been a great conversation.
Listen, guys, one thing that we said when we started the book of Revelation is that we was not going to rush. And I love the fact that Dr. Griffo, you took line by line, precept by precept, and broke it down. That's what Arch is going to be doing on next week, because he has a whole chapter to be breaking down on chapter 3. So yeah, don't apologize for that. This is what this is about. It's about us giving information to the audience and having a conversation about it. So
yes. It's awesome because see, the thing we got to get all of us to see is that we're not just physical, we are solar. We are trying to get to the solar being, which is where you become a seer. Now you can check that out, and people, a lot of people run around calling themselves prophets and this and that. But see, you got to understand that the initiation in the beginning was Iones, which who was the one who was going to be initiate, and Isos. They were the same. We'll get my time coming. And I'll make sure.
No, you're fine.
This is awesome. I like this.
Yeah, I know you're going to get into a lot of that next week in chapter 3, because that's going to be very interesting too. Because I got some questions on that for sure. But anyway, Anala, do you? We're going to start signing off, I guess. You got anything that you want to talk about?
What I'm going to talk about is the SRC challenge. Well, first, next week, chapter 3. You don't want to miss this. You need to tell everybody that you know that they need to join in on this live broadcast, because it's giving you so much information. Don't forget about our SRC challenge, because this challenge at the end of this series here, which is the Revelation Revealed, we're going to be giving away $50 for the person who sends in their summary. So go to our SRC registration form, see how you make sure that you're online, and make sure you send that summary in. Make sure you follow all the steps, because this is going to be really good. So we're not even going to tell you how to do it. Go read it for yourself. We got to get people in tune of doing some research. You have your phones and tablets and everything. Instead of listening to a whole bunch of music and YouTube, use them to look up some stuff. Like I use it all the time to define words and things. So you want to start doing that too. And that's it for me.
Okay, so we appreciate that. And then, like I said, next week we're going to start off with Pastor Archie, and he's going to lay down chapter 3 in the book of Revelation for us. And I know we'll be lucky to be able to get through that, I imagine. All of us here with SRC want to thank the audience for sitting in on today's presentation. Our next episode in this series of the Revelation will be a week from today, on the 31st of this month at 10 o'clock Eastern. So please join us. We really appreciate everyone's patronage and encourage you to email us your questions or comments at shiftingreligiousconcepts@gmail.com. If anyone is interested in advertising with SRC, please contact us at that same email. Also, don't forget that this presentation will be available on YouTube within the next few days. Even if you attended today's program, as I already said, please go to the Shifting Religious Concepts channel and give us a thumbs up, and you'll actually get a lot more information if you watch the video after we do these shows. I always do. This is one of the few ways we get public attention, and it really helps us to promote the SRC mission. If you're not subscribed to our newsletter, go to shiftingreligiousconcepts.com/registration and join us. That's it for us today. It was a really good conversation. We wish you all peace, health, wisdom, and love, of course.